One of the most common questions that I have gotten throughout all the time of doing, these Q&As, people want to ask basically like, what happens to the Trump cult if something happens to Donald Trump, right? I mean, he's an older guy. He's a guy that definitely, if he doesn't get this run for president, he's going to be way too old to run again. He's not in great health. So what happens to the cult? Everybody's asked. And I've already addressed that question. But now somebody's kind of asking a question the other way around. Like, not what happens to them when they lose their power. Here's a question about what happens to them if they gain power. And this question comes from YouTube community member Ozzy Dewitt, who asks, if the MAGA Republicans, or Trump-minded individuals, although not necessarily Trump himself, but not excluding him either, manage to strengthen their hold, expanding their influence on American politics, how would the future of the American ideal, the American experiment look? And could that scenario be overcome, or would the country disintegrate into hostile, adversarial mini-states in something like an ongoing civil war social conflict? Internationally, would then America lose credibility and allies, not to mention economic influence, all of this because of one man's narcissistic hubris? And I like how you do point that out at the end, because that is true. Like, our country, to a degree, is like kind of collapsing because of Donald J. Trump. And I want everybody to let that kind of soak in for a moment. Donald Trump is hastening the demise of an entire country. Just him, the one guy has this much destructive force that this is now a possibility. So to answer parts of your question, do we lose allies? 100%. Do we lose economic partners? Absolutely. Trump's already said he wants to put a 15% tariff on every good coming into the United States. So they're going to be pissed. We're going to be in trade wars with every single country on the planet if Trump gets back into office. But as you said, what happens to the MAGA movement if they start gaining more power? What happens to America? America starts to look like Florida. America starts to look like Texas or South Dakota under Kristi Noem. We end up with nationwide abortion restrictions. We end up with every single person that's ever immigrated into the United States being put on notice that you could be deported at any time, especially if, as Trump put it a long time ago, you're from one of those, crappy, to sanitize the language, countries. Europe is okay. A lot of them look like us. But if your skin tone is a little bit darker than Donald Trump's when he's not wearing bronzer, then you know that you're put on notice that he will send you back to wherever you came from anytime he pleases. We will have a border wall. We will have 2 or 3 border walls. So if you climb over one, you got to climb over another. They will be taller. They will be bigger. We will have xenophobia running rampant. We will have destruction of the First Amendment, and all critical media outlets against MAGA will be shut down, possibly prosecuted. And I'm bringing these things up because these are all actually things that have been suggested by the MAGA movement. Like, these are not just hypotheticals, things I think would happen. These are things they've said they would do. So yeah, America crumbles. The Constitution crumbles. Our international standing crumbles into dust. So, not a pretty picture. It's much more fun to think about what happens to the MAGA movement if something happens to Trump and he goes away. Yeah, that's great to think about. The other side of it, not so much. Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel? We also encourage you to like, comment, and share. But again, click that subscribe button and help Aspen not be so grumpy.